All right, welcome back to TEW Impact. As you can see, we are in last week of July 2022 on the lead up for Emergence. This show is probably kind of be continue being low key, I guess. It's one of those cases where I've pretty much had the show booked for like a week and then just never got the urge to record. So I'm doing it now. Well, I still can. Um, just not really anything in particular coming up. Just I don't know. My one computer finally uh just died. I could fix it if I really cared to, but I don't. But I got this computer, and I got others. I just gotta rearrange my like my desk and stuff again. I've been trying to get my toy room all together. Um, and then it's probably gonna be spring soon. Got stuff outside to do. I got taxes to do. So yeah, I think the plan for right now is to just at least get through to Emergence and then maybe take a break. Um, because it may not seem like it now, with as few shows that I have booked, but I think I have like Emergence like at least 90% put together. At least the plan. But as for Victory Road and Bound for Glory, not so much. So let's just get to Emergence, and then we'll go from there. Like I said, you know, at least I have a plan going towards there, and then I want to do Victory Road and Bound for Glory, right? So that'll come later. But till then, we got the news. All right, we got our numbers from last week. Pretty good week actually. We are up across the board. Other than our before the Impact TV rating, it's always going to be a point one. But our overall rating for BTI was 31, up from 30. Impact TV rating was a 0.32, up from 0.30. Our overall rating was a 46, up from 42 the previous week, and then attendance was 371, up from 325. If I remember correctly, the Impact overall rating puts us at like last week was like the third best Impact rating or overall rating wise, TV rating wise, I didn't look up. I want to say 3.2 is a on the high end. Um but I would have to go back and check. I don't want to do that right now. But yeah, good week for us last week. Impact news is light. Heath has returned from his injury. I don't think I have him planned for use in the near future, and I think he could have worked through his injury, but I didn't really have plans for him, so just allowed him rest up, and he's back, so good for him. Black Truce did accept our contract extension. We put one out like this time last week. Written 1 year, 130 per show. Not exclusive written, so he's still allowed to work elsewhere. He works for AAA, PWG. That might be it. I'm not sure, but yeah, Black Truth still with us for another year. WWE news. Had a lot of news actually. Riddle won the 24/7 title on Raw, defeating Samoa Joe and Cedric Alexander. His first reign with that title. So Samoa Joe no longer the 24/7 champ. Believe he's still the NXT champ, but uh it doesn't I don't think I can't remember last time he's defended that belt. So yeah, Samoa Joe that we used for, a month, no longer 24/7 champ. Ivy Nile defeated Persia Parada on NXT to win their women's championship. Her first reign. Sorry, I think my cat's scratching somewhere. I just wanted to make sure. Like I said, Ivy Nile, winning the NXT Women's Championship. Maybe too early, but I guess that's what NXT is for. Rufang extended his handshake deal with NXT. Um, not I don't think this is an exclusive deal. One of the few people not on an exclusive deal with WWE in some shape or form. Like Samoa Joe and Kaylee Ray, who I mentioned last week because she got pregnant, but Rufang also is like he's not even on a written deal, let alone an exclusive. So it's kind of weird. Uh Bianca Belair and Sean Devari have left. Both have their contracts run out. Big. Definitely would like to get Bianca Belair on our roster. Um, that would be a big get for us. Sean Devari probably not so much, even though he's been here before. But I believe he was only in WWE as a road agent. I think. Um, I think I might have looked him up, and I think he still could wrestle, but at this point, why? But so yeah, people leaving WWE actually. So uh, Bianca Belair would definitely be a good get for us if we can do it. And then Shotzi Blackheart has gotten muscular. Probably the biggest news in WWE because that would be awesome if that happened. Personally speaking, not gonna get too greasy on here. North American news in the elsewhere of our continent. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. My cat's kind of distracting me right now, but I think she's calmed down. AEW. Thunder Rosa defeated Nyla Rose on Rampage to win the TBS title, her first reign. And then Powerhouse Hobbs is left also. Another contract run out, not getting renewed. Uh, Definitely someone we could get. Someone I kind of think I'm thinking about plans for already, but I haven't like actually made the effort to sign him. But yeah, much like Bianca, Hobbs would definitely be a good get for us if we can do it. Um, I actually think like there was a lot of like Mexican news that was gonna include, but um, and news elsewhere. I think some Japan news I was gonna include, but I omitted a lot of stuff just because it wasn't really pertinent. A lot of CMLL news, a lot of title changes there, but I didn't recognize anyone, so I threw it out. A lot of people leaving, or at least announcing they're leaving in a month or so and Japanese promotions, but that stuff I just decided not to include here. But for AAA, I wanted to put that the smugglers of El Nino Hamburguesa and Dinastia defeated Masquerada Dorada and Argenis to win the World Tag Team titles. Those titles were vacated in May when LA Park passed away. So, a reminder that LA Park in this uh, save is now no longer with us. And then some stupid news, some other title changes. The Voros twins, the Da Vinci guys, defeated the Wise Men of Billy Swade and Tony Baroni at NEW 10 to win their tag team titles. Japanese news, the one I think there's a lot of this is title changes that I did want to include, namely the one for Ice Ribbon. Kairi Hojo defeated Tsukasa Fujimoto to win the Fantastic Ice Championship with her first reign. If you remember way at the beginning of this game, Kairi Hojo, formerly Kairi Sane, she made her return to Ice Ribbon. I think she also signed with Joshi Tokyo Joshi Pro, but like she did a show and then like she did a show and like I mentioned here, she returned this month after injury she suffered in January where she won and vacated the Ice X Infinity title. So basically she appeared at a big show, won their big title and got injured in that same night and had to vacate like the big title. But she recently came back. There was no news that she had returned from injury, so she had actually wrestled like a number of matches already in July, and then she won their this is like their secondary title in Ice Ribbon. So not sure why she didn't go after their big title again, but whatever. I'm not booking Ice Ribbon, I'm booking Impact. But Kairi Hoja is back from injury, working uh in Japan, so good for her. Dragon Gate. Yamato defeated Kai at the Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival to win the Open the Dream Gate title, his sixth reign with that belt. And then Masaki Mochizuki, Jason Lee, and Kaito Ishida defeated Naruki Doi, Yamato, and Kai to win the Open the Triangle Gate titles. I put in here Mochizuki's seventh reign with those belts, Lee's fourth, Ishida's second. The main reason I wanted to put that in here is that Mochizuki is set to retire around August week 1, which is actually next week. So since this is last week of July, so another case of Japanese wrestlers winning titles on their way out. So this game, at least this save, really likes to do that. For Tokyo Joshi Pro, Rika Tatsumi won the TJP Princess Cup, defeating Saki-sama in the finals. And then for Michinoku Pro, Lioness Asuka agreed to a handshake deal. Like I said, there were other Japanese news of people planning to leave their respective promotions in months' time, but I figured we'll get to that when they actually do leave. Retirements and other news, a lot of like really random news this week. Announced retirements: Sarah Del Rey, Kyoko Inoue, and Little Guido. Some big losses there, or especially well, now I think about it, if Sarah Del Rey, I assume she's still training at WWE. Um, Technically, this would be a still an in-ring retirement, which she hasn't wrestled in years, so whatever. As long as she doesn't retire from training people, I think we'll be all right. Official new retirements: Theodore Long and George South. They have officially retired. John Hennigan was offered a major movie role and will go film in 3 months from now. This is really no big loss because Hennigan has not wrestled anywhere in 2022. So, I, if memory serves me correctly, he was released last year from WWE when he was doing that Johnny Drip Drip stuff. And in game, this game, no one has picked him up. He hasn't wrestled a match anywhere in this year, so might as well go film a movie role. Maybe one better than Boone the Bounty Hunter. Reminder: his wife is still with us. She had retired from in-ring competition, but we still have her under contract for Impact. Um, Referee John Finnegan has left GCW and Defy after signing an exclusive written contract with New Japan Strong last month. So I guess that contract just took effect, and he left his previous bookings commitments, I guess. Dominic Greeny competed and won in his MMA fight. He had left a couple months ago to prepare, and now he has won. So good for him. And a divorce, another divorce that proves that this game does, hates love. Um, Saraya Knight and Ricky Knight, not Paige, the former Paige, but her parents uh, did get a divorce. So uh, again, another couple on the splits. Now we get to go before the impact. So, like I said, not a ton of news, just some kind of weird random stuff. But so this week on Before the Impact, um, got Joe Hendry, who had debuted last week, continuing his role, defeating John Schuyler. We get a promo afterwards. Masha Slamovich and Diener. Masha Slamovich had turned heel, attacking Zhao Zia after her title match. This kind of confirms that heel turn and their association together. But not only that, Masha Slamovich lays down another challenge, a rematch to Zhao Zia for next week on Before the Impact in a hardcore match. If you remember, Diener's whole point is that he sees levels of violence or whatever in Masha, and she just had to uh, let loose and let them out somehow, and she did that last week and plans on doing that next week, and hopefully maybe winning the digital media title in the process. Then later on, we go backstage where Joe Hendry is cooling down after his match, drinking a bottle of water. goes to throw it in the dumpster when you hear a noise and reveals that that bottle hit CPA, Nick Stapp CPA, who has been sleeping in the dumpster backstage in Impact, and Hendry kind of wants to know what he's doing there, and CPA is like, "Don't tell anyone, like, I'm out of a job, and tax season isn't for like another year almost, so I have really no place else to go." And Joe is kind of like, "Well, yeah." At first, he's like, "Well, don't I recognize you?" He's like, "Yeah, I was hanging out back last week trying to get in. Now I'm in, and I've just been trying to, you know, keep my head low, pick at catering when I can." And Henry's like, "This is unacceptable. I know you lost your job, but we got to do something." And he's like, "Do you believe in me? Do you believe in Joe Hendry?" And uh, Nick's like, "I don't know. I guess I just met you, but I don't really have anything else to do right now, so I guess." And he's like, Henry's like, "Well, if you believe in me and if you believe in yourself, we're gonna work together and we're gonna get you your job back." So Hendry taking CPA under his wing in an effort to hopefully get Nick Stapp CPA's job back in Impact, but we'll see how that goes. And then we have the Sing crew again, um, a creative name for a group that I don't have yet. Raj Singh, Shera, and Falaba, the newly turned Falaba, defeating Caleb with a K, Larry with a D, and Crazy Steve. Basically, their confirmation of a group of people to be finally taken seriously after being treated as jokes for years, possibly defeating people who are considered jokes or maybe considered jokes, even though Caleb and Larry do fairly well together. Crazy Steve is also kind of like toiling at the bottom of the card with them. But basically, this is mostly Falaba in control, just kind of just going ape shit and crushing everybody. And I believe he pins Caleb um, after controlling much of the match. So their crew, strength in numbers, what's about, and they get the win. And then we end before the impact. Not necessarily a video tribute, but just a recap of the attack to D'Lo Brown last week at the hands of Matt Stryker, commanding a portion of Maria Canal LC to beat up Brown. Basically announcing that he will be out indefinitely, and we will get his replacement tonight on Impact. So overall rating 28 for that. Um, the Hendry match a high point, so Hendry in ring should hopefully be good for us. So, but yeah, that's before the Impact. We will go to Impact. All right, so we start off with Impact. We get the arrival of Gail Kim. She comes out to the stage. Ian Riccaboni already at the commentary table, and she kind of reminds the crowd that, you know, this is previously announced, but if anyone who had heard on Before the Impact that due to the attack last week, D'Lo Brown will be out indefinitely. So she has searched for a replacement, one who may be able to defend himself uh, should the opportunity arise, though we hope it shouldn't have to. And she introduces Brennan Williams. Brennan Williams, uh, fresh from his release, well, his contract ran out from WWE, the former Mace. I don't know if he was Masse, and probably not a appropriate picture, but he will be handling color commentary for Impact in place of D'Lo Brown. So she brings out Brendan Williams. Brendan Williams introduces himself. He shakes hands with Ian Riccaboni and settles down to the color commentary spot. So Brendan Williams, a part of Impact, debuting a staff member gimmick. Initial rating of great. We check, yeah, standard gimmick. basically, when I looked him up, his color commentary skills were actually pretty damn good. So decided to bring him in there. I don't know if we're ever gonna use him as a wrestler, but we do have him signed um, as used for whatever is necessary. But for now, we're gonna use him for color commentary. So Ian Riccaboni, and Brendan Williams are commentary team for Impact. Segment rating of 32. And then out comes Matthew Raywolt, Black Taurus, and Steve Macklin, the group that had beat down D'Lo Brown last week at the command of Matt Striker, causing him to be out indefinitely. And then this leads to a match with Dalton Castle and the boys, 6-man tag. Dalton Castle, who had run them off after their attack, came in for the save. So a match is made, and Dalton Castle and the boys get the win when Dalton Castle pins Steve Macklin. So Dalton Castle and the boys getting a win over Maria Canal-C's B team, for lack of better word. Boy 2 was off his game. Robert Evans at ringside. Barrister Robert Evans did some good work at ringside. Segment rating 42, so hopefully a good way to start off the show. Yeah, Dalton Castle's head of shoulders above everyone else, so we need something for Dalton Castle to do, so we can bring in the boys, and then this is kind of like the beeline story for the hostile takeover. We kind of have two concurrent storylines running in the same storyline, if you will. So the other one we will get to later. And then we go backstage. Well, we don't really go backstage. We go to another uh, dark, dank, undisclosed location. Basically, we don't see a whole lot. We see a door open. We see PCO still being tied up to a chair, beaten bloodied after last week. Chances are he's been sitting there all week. Uh, Lights turn on. Father Bateman and Brody King. Brody splashes PCO with a bucket of water, waking him up, shocking him awake. And Father Bateman continues reading cryptic words out of a holy book of sorts and talks about the powers of enlightenment until Brody King comes back with a car battery and starts electrocuting PCO. So, uh, again, it looks like the gospel of violence torturing PCO for what reason we still don't know yet. But again, we have seen PCO being electrocuted before. It was this weird freak stuff he'd like to do, but now the gospel of violence using it for their purposes, whatever they may be. Segment rating of 31. I don't remember how. I think I just had this as a general brawl again. 4 minutes probably could have been shorter, but whatever. And then we get a brief video, kind of recapping the recent call outs by Lance Archer. I don't know why I blinked for a second. Lance Archer calling for Joe Doring to come out and face him. We don't know if Joe will face him anytime soon, but what we do know is that Joe will return to Impact. He will appear next week. Um, and we will find out what happens next week in that story. So basically, we had kind of kept Joe Doring off, even though we could have brought him in. He has been free these last couple weeks, but we've kind of been playing his whole Japan deal. Because I know at least next month I think he will be out for a few shots. So again, kind of using this to our advantage, using Joe Doring sparingly, but unfortunately since we were using them sparingly, this segment did not do well. So, segment of 18, announcing Doring's return to Impact next week. And then we go backstage where Jonathan Gresham and Jordan Grace, husband and wife, are hanging out, talking about their future, talking about strategy, much like last week, when they are interrupted by Rich Swan. And Rich is like, "Oh, isn't this so cute? Look at the, husband and wife planning their future together. Well, isn't it so sweet?" And blah, blah, blah. And Gresham gets up in Swan's face and it's like, well, at least, our relationship is better than yours with your wife. Your wife just keeps showing up and, or actually, I probably shouldn't say it like that. Now I think about it. Anyway, basically, calling out the fact that Su Young has been interfering in Rich Swan's matches, and Swan again goes on the defensive, saying, like, hey, I have nothing to do with that. Like I said, every time I leave home, she's been home. Every time I, go back home, she's home. I don't know how she keeps appearing. I have no control over that, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. Eventually, I don't have it here, but this will probably set up a match for next week. I'm pretty sure I have Gresham versus Swan booked for next week's Impact, so it'll lead to that, basically. Segment rating of 35. Rich Swan getting better at his gimmick, which I don't remember what Swan's gimmick is. It's probably some sort of cocky gimmick. And then we get Tasha Steeles versus Quinn McKay. Um, Tasha defeating Quinn McKay in 9:51 after distraction for Mercedes Martinez. Um, Tasha on somewhat of a roll, having, somewhat of a boost of confidence after pinning Jordan Grace, which is pretty much what she's been after for months. Now that she and her crew are under the tutelage of Mercedes Martinez, her career seems to be on the upswing, but how debatable that can be considering Mercedes didn't necessarily interfere, but the relative inexperience of Quinn McKay uh, was distracted by Mercedes' presence, and Tasha was able to capitalize on that. Um, Mercedes Martinez technically still a face. Um, I'm afraid to turn her heel because everyone I've turned heel almost has hated me for it. Um, I think I need something for her to do to officially turn her heel, which I don't necessarily have planned yet, but we will get there. Something I need to plan. Segment rating of 29 for that. But after the match, basically, um, eventually it leads to a brawl. Savannah Evans and Janai Kai eventually make their way out, which brings out Rachel Ellering and Roxy. So we have a 4-on-3 brawl. Eventually, just they get separated, but you get the idea that Quinn McKay, Rachel Ellering, and Roxy are relatively outnumbered. Well, they are outnumbered. It's 4-on-3, but considering Quinn and Roxy being pretty small in stature, I guess, uh, high in aspirations but small in stature, big of heart, if you will. But the tenacity of Tasha and her crew um, probably overwhelming them. So you kind of get the idea that maybe they should even things up. How they do that, we will see. Um, I don't necessarily have that planned either, but uh, that's kind of where this is heading. Anyway, segment rank 24 for that brawl. We go backstage to a special sit down interview with Josh Matthews, who introduces Colby Carino. He says if this person looks familiar, this is the man that attacked Homicide at the end of last week's episode of Impact. If the name sounds familiar, you might know him as the son of uh, former ECW world champion, uh, the King of Old School, Steve Carino. So he introduces Colby Carino and said he's brought him, has a special sit down interview with him to basically explain his actions lately. He explains that Colby's like, yeah, I attacked Homicide last week on Impact. I attacked him backstage at Against All Odds. And basically he's like, well, I know Impact has had this, relationship with Ring of Honor, and I know, you guys have recognized Ring of Honor since they've shut down. Well, I have some footage from Ring of Honor, and they play that footage, and it's the footage of Steve Corino versus Homicide from years ago. Can't exactly remember when, but uh, basically the slap heard around the world where Homicide slapped Steve Corino so hard in his ear that he lost hearing. And there's a promo which I was trying to look for and I couldn't find lately, but um, promo how Steve Carino's talked about how he lost hearing in his ear and how he had trouble playing with his children and stuff like that. And Colby is just like, ever since then, when I was a little boy and I saw what you did to my dad, um, so all I wanted to do was become a professional wrestler, and I've done that. I followed in my father's footsteps, no matter how badly he's told me not to. And all I've wanted to do, I've went down a dark path. I've gotten into professional wrestling. I've gotten you know, myself involved in drugs and crimes. You can look it up, it's all out there. But I want to feel like I've come out on the other end a better person. But there's something that's always, nagged at my mind. Like, if you never did that to my father, what could have happened? I could be a normal, well adjusted person, but something like that just has always nagged at the back of my mind. Like, what could have changed in my life? My dad could, you know, been a better father, and I could have been a better son. And, everything, as much as, I want to take responsibility for my actions, everything always comes back to that one slap. So, uh, it's like Homicide. I just can't forgive you for what you did to my dad, what you did to our family, what you've possibly done for my future. So basically, he's blaming Homicide for, you know, at least indirectly for, all the things that have happened to him in his life. And he's like, basically, it ends up at, he will stop at nothing to rid the wrestling world of Homicide. He knows that Impact is, you know, he's a Homicide is a fixture in Impact, and now that like LAX has gotten together again and they're on this nostalgia kick or whatever, he's like, but he's seen a different light of Homicide, and he wants to make sure he rids Impact of that, or in the wrestling world in general. So that's his explanation. That's why Colby Carino is an Impact to take care of Homicide and what he did to his father years and years and years ago. So segment ring of 29. Storyline is advanced. Now I noticed the announcing quality, at least the last couple segments, have given these a boost. So hopefully Brendan Williams is doing a good job. Um, and then we go elsewhere backstage. We see Gail Kim. She's approached by Joe Hendry, and Gail's like, "Oh yeah, I know you're Joe Hendry." Like, he introduces himself, and Gail Kim's like, "Yeah, you're the new Impact hire, and I'm we hope you have a bright future here in Impact." He's like, "Yeah, I know, and I know I'm new, and I know I shouldn't really be asking for these, but I got this friend. He's been having problems." And Gail's like, you know, "Whatever you're saying, like, just stop right there. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm I'm like practically running the company. I've seen before the Impact. I saw you talking to uh Nick Stapp, and you can see in the background Nick Stapp like peeking over a dumpster and kind of like waving at Gail Kim. And Gail's like, "Yeah, just make sure like security doesn't see that because they will kick him out. He's trespassing." And Henry's like, yeah, I know, but like, I want to do something good while I'm here in Impact, and I just want to help him get his job back. I feel so bad. I just met this guy. I just want to do, I want to do something good. And Gail's like, I'm sorry, rules are rules. He lost. Feast or fired. So, I don't know a way to get him back. So sorry. And just kind of walks off and leaves Joe Hendry. And Chicken reminds him, like, you should probably get him to leave before security finds him. So that's kind of how that segment ends. So this actually wasn't planned to be on this Impact, but I kind of needed to fill time on tonight's show. But so we have another Joe Hendry CPA um, segment 32 for this one. Technically, CPA is a heel, but kind of like for Mercedes Martinez, I kind of want him to do something major for the proper turn, um, especially so that he doesn't hate me once the turn is actually done. So, segment rating of 32. And then we go elsewhere backstage where basically we see Jake Something and Damian O'Connor in a pull apart brawl uh, after I'm gonna say after last week, but I honestly can't remember last week. It's been too long. But yeah, their feud continuing, or at least something's feud with Damian O'Connor and Eric Young. Just a pull apart brawl to show their still thing going on. Segment rating of 42 for that. Thankfully, a decent rating for this because this is basically just another stopgap uh, thing for them until the next step is made. But big brawl between big guys being pulled apart. Good stuff. We get the learning tree of Avery Good and VSK versus Rep 419, the team of Trey, Miguel, and Sam Beale. A match made last week. Uh, Basically, Brian Myers insulting Sam Beale, his former protege, and then they challenged Avery Good and VSK in their bid for ascension through the ranks of the tag team division. And in this case, it did well, worked out well for them. Rep 419 defeating Avery Good and VSK when Sam Beale pins VSK with botched interference by Brian Myers. So segment rating of 34 for that. Avery Good was off his game for that. But a win in the notch of Rep 419's belt, and a hopeful advancement through the ranks. And we might see more from them later, so I will move on. We go backstage where Gail Kim is, uh, again, kind of overseeing things when she is approached by the X Division champion, Swerve Strickland. And he's like, I love what you're doing here. I love, the way you're running things, but I gotta know, Emergence is coming up. You know, I want to have an opponent for Emergence. I want to defend this title, but I gotta prepare for somebody. So, give me an opponent. Who am I gonna face at Emergence? And Gail Kim's like, I hate to say it. I know you'll probably hate to hear it, but with his win last week, Chris Bay is kind of the top contender for your title, and this brings out Chris Bay, and he's celebrating and laughing and chucking it, yucking it up. He's like, oh yeah, I won last week, so of course I should be the next in line. Even though he's been cheating to get there, Swerve just kind of wants to blow him off. Gail Kim just like, well, wait a minute, I want to make sure before I officially name a number one contender, that if that person earns it. So Bay, you will face Mance Warner in a rematch from last week. And Bay's like, I gotta do this again. I gotta beat him again. And she's like, well, I'm not done. And if you really want that X Division title shot, you're gonna have to defeat him and Danhausen in a three-way match next week. So Mance and Danhausen, stumble their way in and, are doing goofy shit, I guess. Nothing in particular that I have planned here, but basically booking next week, Bay versus Mance Warner versus Danhausen. Um, Possibly technically a number one contenders match, so or at least someone or somewhat determine who Swerve will face at Emergence and defend the title against Sigma Ring of 35, advanced but lost heat. So kind of bummed, but I know Swerve can definitely do better. And then we go backstage where we see Jeff Jarrett kind of pacing back and forth. Well, he's not really pacing back and forth. He's just kind of hanging out. But he's confronted by Ace Austin and Madman Fulton, mostly Ace Austin, where he's just kind of insulting Jeff Jarrett. He's like, "Oh, I know, you know, we get a reminder that we have Ace Austin versus Mike Bailey later tonight. Um, and basically, Austin is antagonizing Jarrett. He's just like, you know, I'm not gonna be so nice. I'm not gonna be as nice as Josh Alexander is. Josh and everyone here has been welcoming you with open arms, but I know why you're here. You're here to, hog the glory of the place you supposedly built, and basically just giving him all the negativity that other people might have been saying, and even Josh may have said at one point, and Austin's like just prodding Jeff. He's like, "Oh, you're too old. You can't hang with the new crop of talent, and you're only here to steal the spotlight from us, and you know all that jazz." And Jeff's just kind of just stonewalling it, just kind of not trying to sell it, and eventually Ace and Madman Fulton just laugh and walk off. So just kind of prodding Jeff Jarrett. Uh, Segment rating of 40 for that. We get Viper. She comes out to the ring and she refers to Rosemary's promo last week, where Rosemary kind of accuses Viper of taking advantage of those weaker than her, and she's kind of like, well, I can't really help it, considering maybe everyone in Impact may be weaker than me. I came in to a battle royale and you know nine defeated nine other women, and just because I defeated a local talent a few weeks ago, doesn't necessarily make me uh I guess taking advantage of the weak. But I'll do is I'll open up the floor. Anyone in the back who wants to come and challenge me can do it. And I have her here. She did like a 5 minute. She wants to, if she wants to do it, and if you can beat me, and or if you can at least stand 5 minutes, I'll admit defeat. And Brandy Lauren comes out. If you remember, Brandy Lauren was she is Viper had took Brandy Lauren's spot in the Battle Royal, is what I'm trying to say. So she was coming out to the ring for the Battle Royal, and Viper attacked her and took her spot and ended up winning. So of course Brandy Lauren is probably trying to get revenge for that. Viper's just kind of laughing it off and just letting the match go. So segment rating of 19 for that, and well, it does say 5 minutes and 3 seconds, but will not play by those rules. But Viper does beat Brandy Lauren quite handily, much like she did the local competitor Aspen Rose a few weeks ago. So Viper continuing her dominance, um, supposedly over the weaker members of Impact, but that will remain to be seen in the future. Segment rating of 21 for that. So not I kind of expected that to not do the greatest, considering Brandy's, you know, not the greatest on our roster. Very low tier compared to the rest of the knockouts, but we're telling a story. Viper squashing people on our way to Rosemary. So Sigma ring of 21. And then we go backstage where GM Miller is interviewing Trey Miguel and Sam Beale. Um, after their match, or cool down after their match with Brian Myers Learning Tree, and they're excited. They're like, we're we got to win. We want to be taken seriously in the tag team division and all that, and I think it's time that we get that rematch with the Morrissey Machine Guns, and the Morrissey Machine Guns show up, and they're like, well, the thing about that is like, racking up wins, that's just one win, and no offense, but you know, beating people like Avery Good and VSK, uh, it's not like you're beating like you know, these huge tag teams. You got one win over like lower mid card team. That it doesn't really still doesn't put you like in our stratosphere. But you know what? We're feeling generous. We're talking to another team. We're gonna hook you up with a match next week on Impact. If you beat that team, maybe we'll consider giving you that match. So giving you a rematch with us. So they I don't have them turning heel, but they are acting kind of dickish to the so-called younger talent. But basically, putting another team in their way next week. We will find out who that team is next week. But until then, segment ring of 36. The storyline has lost heat with that. Excuse me. And then we go elsewhere backstage where Tenille Dashwood is kind of sulking on her own backstage. If you remember, um, she had lost a 3-on-1 handicap match, kind of looking for the help of her former, well, at least former friends, former associates, the Inspiration. When Chelsea Green and Deanna Prato, the BFFs, kind of sit next to her, both, one on each side of her, kind of just like talking in her ear, giving her all these ideas, and they're just kind of like gossiping, mostly between themselves, but with Tenille in between them. She's like, well, I heard like, all these things about how, you know, the Inspiration booked you in that match on purpose, or they told, you know, the matchmakers that it was going to be 3-on-3 and they just decided not to show up to prove, uh, teach her a lesson, even though they said, last week they said that wasn't true, but, who can you really trust? Can you really trust your, friends who won't help you get a title shot and all this stuff? And they eventually just walk off after having said their piece and leaving Tenille to think about everything. So segment rating of 31, storyline has lost heat with that. And then we go backstage. We see Maria Kanellis in her locker room with her husband, Michael Bennett, and W. Morrissey is there, and they're already arguing. They're talking about how, Bennett and Morrissey, they had their match last week, um, against who I can't remember. I think it was the Guns. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Machine Guns. They're like, oh, we could have won if it wasn't your fault. And they're basically placing the blame back and forth as they have been doing the last couple weeks. And Maria's like, shut up, you guys, calm down. You guys gotta coexist, and I'm giving you guys another chance. And I got you guys a match. I had to go to Gail Kim. I need you guys to work together to coexist if we're gonna make this thing work. I got you guys a match. I got you guys a match with the Wolves next week. Now it's not gonna be. It's non-title. I couldn't get a title match. I talked to Gail, and she said you guys aren't deserving of a title match. But if you guys work together, beat the Wolves next week, I'm sure you'll be in line for a title match. So you guys got to do this. You guys got to work together if we're gonna make this succeed. we're gonna make this thing work. If I'm gonna get control of Impact, by any way necessary. But you two are my top prospects, and I gotta make sure you guys are working together. So you guys face the Wolves next week. You beat the Wolves, and surely we're gonna get a title shot. If you just gotta work together. That's the plan here. And they put aside their differences. They shake on it, and the alliance is tenuous, but we'll see if it continues. Segment rating of 41 for that. And then in our main event, we get Ace Austin versus Mike Bailey. Um, Pretty even matchup between the two, but it's Bailey is kind of at first distracted by Madman Fulton's presence. But eventually Madman Fulton is taken out of the equation. Mike Bailey does something cool off the top rope or something, takes him out, but uh, Austin is able to capitalize until Bailey does eventually get the upper hand. Until Madman Fulton makes his presence known again, which draws out Jeff Jarrett with the guitar. So basically, uh, kind of Fulton's kind of messing with the referee. Austin and Bailey are, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm really out of it right now. Like I said, I booked the show like a week ago, and I probably had a plan in my head then. But basically, Austin and Bailey, Austin's doing something dickish, which Jeff Jarrett brings out the guitar. He goes to swing. He goes to swing at Austin. Austin ducks. Jarrett hits Mike Bailey with the guitar on accident. Uh, Pissed off, Jarrett stomps out of the ring. Um, Austin immediately takes advantage. Fulton drops off, tells the referee to count 1, 2, 3. Austin gets the win. Ace Austin gets the win over Speedball Mike Bailey with botched interference by Jeff Jarrett. Segment rating of 43. Um, and instantly, Josh Alexander coming out to the ring. Jeff, is trying to get out of the ring. Josh Alexander stomps his way out to the ring. Ace Austin and Madman Fulton are celebrating. They're making their way to the back. Jeff Jarrett and Josh Alexander, Josh is immediately getting in Jeff Jarrett's face, and Jeff is profusely apologizing. He's like, "I didn't mean to. I wanted to hit Austin. I wanted to hit Austin with the guitar." Uh, After what he said about me earlier, and he was not playing fair in the match, and I wanted to keep the peace and whatever. Not really saying well, he's saying that, but it's not really like a promo. You just hear it getting picked up in the argument. Uh, and eventually, just Josh just shoves Jeff Jarrett down to the mat and storms back off, and which causes Ace Austin and Madman Fulton to point and laugh and gloat in their success, of course. So uh, Jeff Jarrett, Josh Alexander's friendship probably falling apart at this point, considering he just saw Jeff Jarrett break a guitar over one of his best friend's head and cause him to lose a match. So Josh Alexander, understandably pissed at Jeff Jarrett. This ends the show. Segment rating of 41. Overall rating of 41. That is actually surprising. When I booked this on paper, I didn't think it was gonna be all that great, but we got a 43 out of Ace Austin and Mike Bailey, 41s for some of the top angles, 42 out of the Jig Something and O'Connor brawl, 42 out of the six man to open the show. So even with a disappointing Doring hype video and the Viper stuff and not having some certain names up here, like we didn't have the Wolves on here, we didn't have LAX on here, or the Inspiration. We had them mentioned in passing, but they weren't actually appearing. So I was kind of worried that this show wouldn't be that great, but 41 I will take considering um what we've been getting, high 30s. So yeah, I'm sorry for kind of being out of it. I'm just kind of churning. Just I wanted to get this show recorded because if I wasn't gonna do it today, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I know I'm not at my best, and this show probably wasn't at its best, but we are getting to Emergence. Hopefully the threads are coming together. I don't think we didn't have any official matches announced, but in the coming weeks, we have 2 more weeks of Impact. I'm sure you can see some of the matches coming together. We just have to announce them, and that will be in the next couple weeks. So, and next week will be a new month, so we should have some news regardless. Hopefully we make money. Hopefully maybe we can sign some new people. The show did lose its popularity in 2 regions, so maybe some of our storylines aren't doing that well. Our storylines did lose some heat this week. But yeah, join me next show. We will get towards Emergence. And until then, thanks for watching.